Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. Well, it has officially begun. I'm on the deconstruction, get ready for paint phase. Got the grill and the hood. Gonna take the battery box mount out and the side panels and some other stuff. They're all getting painted white. I also took the boom off of Artie. I'm gonna get that painted white properly. Also the little foot pads, kind of like that, but for this one, they're going to have them painted black. Have the extension tube for Artie's boom pole. Have that painted black, and maybe another thing too. But next on the agenda, after I get this apart, is I want to get this plate off on all these holes, all these extra holes. I'll fill them in and sand them down, and then need to address this right here. Need to build that up with some fiberglass. That side's okay. And yeah, and then get this plate off. I've got a guy out in Pennsylvania who has a new one, or not new, but a less worn one of those. I need to get some good pictures of this so that when I get that apart, because I got to take all that stuff off of there, because that plate is going to get painted yellow, same as the frame. And I also got to get that off because I've got some full-size roll pins. Full size, some proper size roll pins for the some of those cross shafts. Right now I've just got bolts in there holding it in, just when I was making sure it works. I thought I ordered some ball joints from Cub Cadet Specialties. I'm gonna have to check my order, but they didn't show up in the box. We'll see. But yeah, there's still going to be another round of white to do. I got to do the wheels and the undercarriage, the mule drive. That's all going to be white. And yeah, so I think what I've brought to work for Kevin now is enough to keep him busy. And then the second round of white will be all this console, all that mess, and the wheels also. There may be some sandblasting involved as well. But then after all the white's done, then it'll be the frame. Get that all sent to him. I started making a bracket for my electric power takeoff. I put the rear body on here, and this looks like a really good spot for this because the rear body's got kind of a well, it does like that anyway. It's got some body work back there, so this is going to be kind of a cool spot for that. That'll be good. And I think also what I'm going to do is I need a maintenance or a storage switch. So that's what this big honker thing is. I've got another style like this too. It's more of a slap switch, more of an emergency stop. This is an intentional turn it off, turn it on thing. But I think I'm going to mount this in the battery box, maybe. But I'll probably do that later, like after it's all painted and everything, which is kind of dumb, but I haven't decided if I'm going to do that or not. I kind of wanted to put it up here between the battery box and this back here, maybe have it right here, but that makes getting to all this stuff much more difficult. Oh yeah, and another thing that I found out when I had the body on it, I can't get that little transmission tunnel part off without moving the body back about a quarter of an inch. Everything gets really tight, so that kind of sucks. So my idea of having my fuses and everything right there as, you know, being really easy access is kind of that's not going to work because it's all too tight. I can't get it out of there because I got to be really careful to not touch any of that stuff, especially if it's all live, which it would be unless I put this maintenance switch in. Anyway, all right. Well, that's the plan for now. We'll see you later. All right, guys. Well, some time has passed, and if you remember, of course you remember, it was only a couple minutes ago for you. I wanted to get all the holes filled on that, and there's the panel with all the holes filled. Except for that circled one right there, which I didn't fill. I still might, but I forgot. But anyway, all the holes are filled there. And the mule drive, I got it off of the machine, and it was kind of bent and crooked and twisted, and so I undid all of that stuff, made it straight again, and sandblasted it, brought it to work. And I just got all the wheels and tires removed well, separated. So I needed to get those wheels to sandblaster. I'm going to have a professional, I guess you'd say, sandblaster do it, just because the little Harbor Freight one that I've got, that would take just hours, and I don't want to do that. And yeah, I did not take any pictures of that before I took it apart, which kind of sucks. But I'm hoping that the video that I made, this one you're watching right now, will help me figure out where all that stuff goes and how it is. But I did just I sort of just took it off and put it right here. So everything's in its correct place. I didn't, really disassemble it a lot. But one thing, oh yeah, and also I finished that little electric PTO bracket, and that turned out pretty cool. That's going to end up going right here, like I said. But I also added a receiver hitch to it because I like to make things that utilize a receiver hitch. So that's what that is. So that's going to pick up on all 4 of these bolts here, and the lower part of the receiver hitch is I think that's 1/4 inch, and the top part that just holds that EPTO outlet, that is 1/8 inch. But yeah, I got that receiver hitch on there, so that's pretty cool. I got a whole mess of cables that I hopefully will remember where they go. I did mark them, and hopefully I didn't mark them too cryptically that I can't figure it out. But one of the big things that I did, and I almost screwed up, I actually had all this stuff completely stripped, and I had this frame sitting over there by the door. I had all those yellow parts over there, all in a pile, all ready to go to work. And then I remembered that I need an accelerator pedal because at the moment, all I have is that throttle. But I think that's dangerous. I think that's really dangerous. When this was an engine, of course, it had a clutch / brake pedal. And if you got yourself into trouble, then you would put the clutch on and then the brakes and you'd stop. The engine would continue running full blast. But in this case, there's no clutch. So if that throttle is on, that motor is going. And those brakes are not going to be enough to stop it. Yeah, that motor will easily overpower these brakes. Might slow you down a little bit, but in a panic situation, I mean, what kind of a panic situation are you going to get in at 10 miles an hour? But that's not really the best thing. So I want to have a throttle pedal, and I want it to look cool, and I want it to look like it's supposed to be there. So that's kind of what I've been working on today. Now, I didn't get any videos, of course, of the fabrication of all the bushings and stuff to make this here, but this is basically what I've got going on. So that's going to be my throttle pedal right there. And I wanted to make these little bushings look like the factory would have done it. So I did. And what I ended up doing, I'll try and walk you through the steps of this. Hold on here. See if I can find my thing. Yeah. This is the piece that I started with. It was just a piece of 1-inch rod that I bored a 3/4 inch hole through, reamed a 3/4 inch hole through the middle of it, and then pressed these little oil light. They're like oil impregnated brass bushings. Pressed those in there, and this was too long. This was about 3 inches long. Then I had the shaft going across here. It was too long also. This whole body was pushed back out of the way a little bit. But I ran that shaft all the way in there, had this slid over the shaft, pressed up against the side of the frame here, and that was keeping me straight. And then while it was all there in position, I whacked the other end with a hammer, and I had like a little center punch on the threaded into the other side of this shaft here anyway. And that told me where that hole was going to be. So that allowed me to get these holes square and straight and parallel and all that stuff. And yeah, and then I went ahead and put that one on the inside as per Cub Cadet spec. And I put the other one on the outside because that's how it is on the brake. There you go. That's how the brake one is. So I did the one like that with the brake. So that's pretty neat. And then on this side, once it's painted, it's going to look just like all the other ones. So I'm really happy about that. Turned out really cool. You can't really tell that it wasn't supposed to be there. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, and then now what I need to do, what I've got is a little wire. So this is kind of like brake cable or whatever. So I'm going to run that from my throttle, my hand throttle, I run that wire through that same guide cover, whatever, and it'll go to the throttle or the potentiometer here. And then whenever you do the throttle thing, it'll pull up on it. That's fine. But then if you push the accelerator, that will be mechanically linked to this. So it will override wherever that throttle setting is. So if you have the throttle setting off, then you can just drive normally with the accelerator pedal. But if you wanted to, I don't know, if I have a tiller hooked up to the back of this thing and I want it to be at a steady speed, then I can set the throttle there and that will give me a steady speed. I'm going to have to move this because what I want to do, I hope, is I'll pick up from right there off the side. I don't have a whole lot of room right here to run up because right here is a little distribution block and I've got a cable coming this way and some cables going that way and some coming the other way. So hopefully I'll be able to kind of squeeze through. Now what I'm doing right now is lining up this edge with down there to try and get a square view of it. And then the cable's going to come about right here and then go down this way. So I've got about this much room to run a small rod. So I'll run a small rod from an arm that's on my throttle shaft there. So that rod will come up and I'll reposition that potentiometer back here further, and then that rod will pick up on the arm sticking out of the potentiometer. And that's what's going to move my accelerator. And that's what's going to be my accelerator. And then, yep, that's how that's going to work, I hope. And then kind of the same way that this is my brake shaft. This has got a spring going up to this here doohickey. I'm going to run a spring from the same doohickey. There's another hole right there to something that looks exactly like this, but on my throttle shaft. So it'll have a spring that will pull it off, because that's very important. You don't want to get a stuck throttle. All right, so that's where I'm at with that. I don't exactly know how I'm going to do all of that yet, but I think the hard part, fabricating that shaft and getting the throttle pedal on there, that part's done. So I guess the next video is going to be with that all installed and working properly. Okay, I think we have great success. It didn't take, well, I say it didn't take that much effort, it kind of did. I didn't have to move the potentiometer very much. I reused one of the holes that I had it on, and I had to make that bottom link there on the left, and then make a little link here on the right to connect a spring to. And I was fretting for a long time. I wanted to, you see where that spring connects to the back of this bracket, there's another hole there, and I thought it'd be really cool to pick up on that hole and use it as a return spring for this throttle lever, but it's just really cramped and it's short, and there's about an inch of travel, so it's kind of too much for a small spring, and it needs to be quite a lot of pulling force. So these are just some springs that I had laying around, and so I kind of repurposed it and just drilled and tapped a hole into the back of this deck height setter thing. I don't know. And yeah, so that's my post for that. Got some thread tied in there and tightened that down nice, and got that there, and both sides. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plate off and move it over maybe 1/4 of an inch, because on the side here I want to be able to reuse. I want to use a factory foot pedal rubber, and it's just too tight. I didn't really pay attention to that when I welded this thing on there. It's kind of annoying, and to get this off, I'm going to have to cut, like with an angle grinder, and cut this entire thing off, because one weld is here on the inside and I won't be able to get that to grind away at the weld. So I'm going to have to cut this thing up into a million little pieces to get it off, but that's all right. I'll just have to make another one of these and move it over about 1/4 of an inch to give me some clearance. And yeah, so there it goes, and let's see how that little dude works. It's pretty sweet. Yeah, right on. I had to do a little notch on the frame. I don't know if I really needed to do that, but I wanted to give myself the maximum room possible for all the cables and stuff that are going to need to go past all this. As it turns out, I got it, basically behind the frame. So if it all worked before, it should all work now. And then I had to make this little jog on there because that needed to clear. My little Heim joint needed to clear this mechanism. So, and it does now. So that's fabulous. Real happy about that. And now all I got to do is just be a real simple matter to I'll take this whole assembly off, put it on the bench, and then just run a floppy wire cable from up there down to there. And yeah, I'll use this sleeve just because, but I'll need to cut that back a little bit. And I've got these little doohickeys that I should be able to just put right in there, and then put a swedge behind it, and then that should do what I need it to do. So yeah, so that's that. That's one less thing, I guess. And now that that's done, I suppose the next job will be taking all this wires out of here, and I need to fix my little fiberglass up here. I need to put a second bolt in the bottom of this potentiometer. Yeah, but I think that's it. This damn button here, it's really hard to push. It gets stuck. Like, I know it's got a little lock here. That's fine, but this thing is really hard to push. So I don't know if I just need to jam some grease down in there, lube it up a little bit, and then all this chrome is kind of not chrome anymore. I know there's a trick. You can take wet aluminum foil and polish that rust off of there to get the chrome back. But yeah, and then just tape it all off when it goes to paint. But there we go. So that's that little job done. So that turned out really great. I'm very pleased about that. So I think that's it for this time. Maybe next time we'll be watching some parts get painted. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.